Welcome to Friday Night Live. I'm not live again this week. I'm sorry. I'm on vacation and I decided that I didn't want to lug all my video equipment up and my camera stand and all that stuff. So while I did bring some Stampin' Up stuff with me to enjoy, I am just going to be enjoying it up there, not worrying about going to you live and whether or not I can get everything going right. So I hope you still enjoy it. I decided actually not to go live when I got such great feedback on the card I posted earlier today, which is Wednesday of the previous week. So this is Wednesday the 13th. And I got such great feedback that I thought, well, I guess I need to show everybody how simple it was to create. So that's what we're going to do. And we're piggybacking off last Friday's video where we did the smush technique. So I'm going to use some of those scraps and pull them in, and we're going to make another great beach card. Are you ready? So last week we created this card during my Friday Night Live, and this portion right here was done using the smush technique. This one is not one I actually did on air, on live. I had created some of these. And this is when you use less water. This is when you use more water. This is when you have it all the most and you've actually dipped paper in it a couple times so the colors have started blending a lot. So what I did was I took some of the other scraps that I had kicking around and I was just playing around with them and came up with this card. And y'all really love that one, so I figured I better show you how to do it. So I had taken this piece and you can see that I cut a wave out of it. This is the Waves of Inspiration stamp set that I'm going to be using. So I really actually didn't even use the wave. I used the sentiment, "You're so totally awesome." But I used the Coordinating Waves dies. Now in the Waves dies, there are actually two wave dies. And we're going to use both of them tonight. And you can look on this original card, and I have a background of Night of Navy, which, although it does work for this card, I think it's too dark. So we're going to change things up a little bit tonight. And then I had a solid layer of Pacific Point. I think that was from this die. And then on top of that, I had one cut out of that paper that I'd made using the smush technique. So to adhere this to your cardstock, you can use the mono multi glue, or you can use adhesive sheets. And here's a scrap piece of adhesive sheet that I have. I'm going to show you how to do both techniques with them. Whichever adhesive you prefer is what you should use. So let's go. I don't want to waste this piece that I'd already cut in one wave out of, and I've noticed that I can align this right on the end here, and it barely fits on. It actually looks like it doesn't quite fit on over here, but it does cut inside that edge, so we will be fine. But what I want to do is I want to put some adhesive sheet on the back of this. Now it doesn't have to cover the whole thing. So this is actually kind of wide. I don't need it that wide. I could use smaller strips here, and I can even use my scissors to add that here. I'm going to, and this is the sticky part right here. Peel that off. And actually, I think if I press, oh, the sticky still stays on here. Let's see, I'm gonna just go over here. All right, and I probably should have put the bigger one. Let's go ahead and cut a little bit more. Put that right up here. You don't need it all over the whole wave, because just some of it will stick down, and that'll be good enough for all of it to stick down. Let's go ahead and bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. We will need our general layer of plate 1. plate to one of the 3 plates, number 3 that is. I'm gonna just, so this doesn't get caught in my machine, just take this extra little piece out here. I'm going to put this right up on the edge. Now, this may slide around a little bit. It's such a big die. So I think what I'll do is I will apply a little washi tape. You can put a piece of Post-it note over it. You could put some of that sticky saran wrap. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's called cling wrap, I think. I'm just going to use some washi tape. I'm going to de-stick it a little bit and line this up the way I want it to be. Just kind of hold it down. Hold it in place. Oh, that didn't hold it in place, did it? Okay, there we go. I'm putting it through at an angle so that this hard edge doesn't give my machine a jolt when it goes through. I'll just run that through after putting another number 3 plate on top. And so when I very carefully peel off these pieces of washi tape, what I have left is something that's mostly going to stick into my die. So I'm gonna go ahead and take your pick tool, knock out some of those extra pieces that I can see hanging around. All right, there's another one over here. And then peel it off. And so here I have, look at that really interesting piece here. I'm going to set that aside. Now, I can tell that in some places there is a backing here that I need to take off. Now, I will say it is easier if you had covered this whole thing in adhesive, because then you don't have to struggle to look so much. But you know, I have bad eyes. I should probably, you know, I can see it ridged, so I can see I can peel that off, and now it's sticky. And there's another one over here. I just need to pick up, try not to tear it or poke it. Here we go. There's more, and then I know there's more over here, but I'll get that in a second. I'm going to set this aside. Now I'm going to bring in a piece of Tahitian Tide, and honestly, I would have used this color on my paper, but for some reason I didn't order the re-inker, and I know I tell everybody I always order the re-inker when you order the pad, but I didn't, and so I had to make adjustments. However, it does go nicely with my color choices, all blues and greens. So I'm just going to cut this out without putting any adhesive sheet on here. And when I take this out, again, I'm left, oh, this one kind of popped out on its own, which is great. Just need to get a few of these extra little pieces out of here. And I probably need to poke this one out. There we go. So we have this, and you can see just how fine the lines are in here, which makes it a little difficult for the mono multi-glue. This one probably actually would have been a better one. Some of the lines are a little bit thicker. Probably would have been the better one to use the glue on. But, you know, I didn't do that, so I'll pay the price. Let's clean this up. Now I'm going to bring in a piece of Pacific Point, and this is going to go right on here, so it just gives a little bit of a darker color beneath the Tahitian Tide. But we have to adhere it, so we'll have to use our liquid adhesive. So you just have to have a very fine touch here. You don't want it very heavy. You don't need to put it over the whole thing. Just the parts that are biggest will help. Wherever you can safely apply it. You're not going to get too much on the underlaying cardstock. Definitely want to make sure you have some on the ends. And without too much wiggling, you want to just apply it there and set it down easily. Now you can see that I moved this and my glue is showing right there. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit. I can take an adhesive remover and rub that off. I can probably even rub it off right now and not worry about it. It's not going to show up too much because there is a piece that's going to go on the top. Now, if you recall, what we did with this piece, we already had the adhesive backing on it. We're going to line this up as well, right over the top of the other one. And stick it down. And so look at how fun that is. You've just got a bunch of different colors in there. All right. And then what I did was I cut this out. I fussy cut it out. And it doesn't take too long. I'm going to speed up the camera, but it really didn't take me very long. And then in here I came back in and I just kind of cut out some of this so it'd go along the wave of the other one. And I'll take it out of the back. There we go. And then there's just one more little piece in here that I want to kind of take out. And so there we have our wave. A couple weeks ago, I showed you Stampin' Up's new masking paper, and we're going to use that again tonight. I'm actually going to be die cutting. So in the waves dies, there are some clouds. Here's one cloud outline. These are details for the clouds if you want to make them a little more gray, but I'm not going to do that tonight. So we have these two clouds. I'm also going to get out my birds because I need my seagulls. The masking paper is split on one side. You can probably see that I'm lifting that up a little bit. That's not the side I want to stamp on. I want to stamp on the other side if I'm stamping. But I'm not stamping, I'm die cutting. So I want to die cut on this other side. I'm going to go ahead and put those through my die cutting machine. And I'm also going to put these guys through my die cutting machine in a pair of, or in a scrap of basic gray. Be right back. Okay, I've cut out 4 seagulls. The die cuts out 2 at a time, and I'm looking for an odd number, so I went for 3. Can only get even when I'm using the die. And then I've got the 2 clouds right here. I'm going to take my thick basic white card base, and if I put my wave down here, I kind of set it up. I have to flip it over. I set it up so it has an equal border on these 3 sides. And I'm going to figure out where I want my clouds to go. So I think one of them will go there, and one of them will go here. I want different heights. So I'll just play around with those. But first I need to take the adhesive backing off. You can use a fingernail. It really comes off pretty easily. Now remember, this can be pretty sticky for the first run. So try to tack it down or remove the tack a little bit. I'm going to put this one up higher. And then this one, I didn't even need to use my take your pick tool there. I'll put this one a little bit lower, I think. Ooh, I didn't detack it. Oh, well, we'll be extra careful when we pick it up. So is that going to be what I like? No, I think I want this cloud a little bit higher. So I'm going to be very gentle. Let's detack it a little bit right now. And I'm gonna rearrange these. I'm gonna put this one here, and I'm gonna move this one down a little bit, I think. All right, so now I see where they're gonna go. What I need to do is add a little bit of blue sky. So to do that, I'm going to bring in one of my blue blending brushes. I don't clean them thoroughly between, and that's fine as long as you're using, you know, similar colors in here. I'm going to bring in my Balmy Blue, ink it up, and I need a little scratch paper to kind of get that first layer off. And I'm going to go right over the top of my masks. And I'm just going to go until I get what I think is a nice sky look. You'll see on my original, I'll get that out in a second, that I had actually a pretty mottled sky looking. It wasn't all uniform in color, and I really like that effect. Because sometimes there's just, it's not really clouds, but it's some precipitation in the atmosphere that is not quite giving you the same blue everywhere. Right, now, if I put my wave up here, I can see that this is still pretty white in here, and I want a little bit more sky down there. So I'm just going to add this. Just keep going until I get that all there. Okay. Let's take a peek underneath our masks. Remember, you can use these over and over again. And there's a white cloud. I'm gonna set them on my ink pad right now. And remember, I'm removing it gently so that it doesn't rip the paper. I'm just setting them right here on my ink pad right now, but I will transfer them into the stamp set case that also holds the dies. All right, now I think I'm ready to adhere my wave. Let's go ahead and do that. I just need a little bit of liquid glue here. And I remember that I want to bring it in a little bit from each side. Kind of gives a faux layer look. We'll just set that down there. Look at that beautiful wave. Now we do need a sentiment on this card. So I'm going to bring in my waves of, I can't even say it, waves of inspiration, not waves of information. And I'm going to bring in that "You're so totally awesome" saying again, mounted on a block. Now I want a color that is going to coordinate here. And I think, now, one other thing that I can see that I didn't get any adhesive right here and it keeps popping up. You might like that it pops up. It gives more dimension. It's popping up a little bit too much for me, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more glue on there. Again, if you had used adhesive sheet over the entire back of that, you wouldn't have had that problem. So you can decide if you want to have that problem or not. I'm going to bring in my Pacific Point ink pad. Ooh, I got some edges on there. I can see when I look, I can see some edges. So if I'm not very careful when I stamp, I'm going to get that little halo. So instead of potentially ruining my card that is so beautiful right now because I've made the mistake of adhering something when I probably should have waited to stamp something, I'm going to clean this stamp and start again. And I'm going to be a little bit more gentle when I ink. All right, so now you can see that I don't have any of my edges inked. You're so totally awesome. And now we can go ahead and add in some seagulls. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but the seagulls do have a little bit of embossing. They do have a little bit of dimension on them. I can tell that this is the wrong, quote unquote, wrong side. So just a little bit of glue. And let's see, we're gonna put that here. And let's see, where will we put some of the other ones? I'm gonna put this guy over here. And I like the longer guy, so I'm gonna put him over here with the short guy. I'm talking about his wingspan, in case you can't decipher what I'm saying. I'm trying to be so gentle with this glue so that it doesn't come out in a big glob. Where am I gonna put that? Here, here, like right there maybe. All right. You can also add some gems if you wanted to make this come alive even more. Let's see, I think something rhinestone-y, sparkly would be nice. Let's see if I have an open pack already. I do have an open pack somewhere. Here it is. Let's go ahead and take your pick tool. Let's add in a couple of rhinestones. One up there. I don't want to go too much on this card. Let's try a triangular shape here. I'll probably try one of the bigger ones down here. Maybe there. So I have another very simple card to send to a friend to let them know I'm having fun at the beach and that they're totally awesome. So that was really all there was to it. The work for this card is done by this kind of paper. And even if you think this is ugly, I honestly think this one's ugly, it's gonna look great cut out. So perhaps you were skeptical when I just said this ugly piece will still make a beautiful overlay. I cut it out and that's what I got. If I were to put this right over the top of the other one that's cut from the same die, look, it looks just as beautiful. So even if you don't like it, doesn't mean you can't use it. Find a use for it, redeem it, make it beautiful. Thank you for spending your Friday night with me. I so appreciate you joining me at Mrs. Rogers Stamperhood every Friday night. Please share with your friends that you know like to stamp. And if you have friends that you think might like to stamp, invite them to stamp with you. It's so much fun, as you know. And when you have friends that stamp, you can share supplies and you can just get excited about what each other is doing. I plan on being live next week, so join me again at 7:30 on Friday for a new project. Don't forget, we are still in celebration, and celebration selections are while supplies last. So don't let things sell out on you. Make sure that those things that you gotta have, you get. So I will see you next week.